years have you been in for? I know you hit the Golden Door already, so what year was that finally for you?
So yeah, it was only my second summer. So
Wow, you're kidding.
yeah, rookie year came out, sold 220, 225 in 3 months, and then ended up graduating in May. And I was like, all right, I'm just going full send. Did a full 6 month summer and ended up finishing with the Golden Door. So it's a pretty cool experience.
How many months was that Golden Door? How many months did that take you?
It took me 7 months to finish.
7 months for the Golden Door.
I hit 1,000 accounts in July. So that would be 5 months or so, 4 months.
So, okay,
And
a thousand
then
accounts, and then what'd you end at?
then I ended up finishing right at 650. So took me
Gotcha.
an extra 2 months just to hit the rev wise.
Okay. And then how many accounts was that total for 650?
I finished at right at 1,300.
1,300. So contract value, that's around 550, 600.
So yeah, it really depends on what it is. So like we offer bundle services, so it counts as two accounts and everything. So all of my premium accounts were ranging from 800 to, I mean, the highest contract I sold this summer was 3,200. So
Wow.
yeah, it was an insane, biggest house I've ever seen in my entire life. And dude was paying, he was paying another company like $250 a month, and like was just not getting what he needed from him. So I was like, hey dude, like, let me help you out.
Tell me about that one then, because that's the biggest contract I've ever heard of. You said it was how much? It was
It's right at 3,200. Let me see what that was.
3,200. Yeah. What was the initial and what was the monthly?
So my initial on it was 200, and then monthly was 266.
So it wasn't even a termite or anything.
No, it was just a straight up. It was a custom schedule. I had them getting serviced every single month, but
Okay.
it still was, yeah, it was a nice little fatty. And it was simply just, I just was just talking to him about his house because he had a 6 car garage. And I was like, all right, dude, like you got to have something crazy in your garage. Like, can I just see what you got in there? And I was just hanging out in his garage and I was just looking around and there was still like mud daubers, there were spider webs in there. And I was like, when's the last time you got serviced? And it was like 2 weeks ago. I was like,
Wow.
service 2 weeks ago and you still have all this going on? And then just got to talking. He gave me a tour of the house. And I was just in awe at the physical house because there's like a pool house, like all this crazy stuff. And then got talking to business and I just gave him a little bit better deal. And then just our quality of service helped out. And yeah, he actually sent me a Christmas card too, which is super funny.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So that was a pretty long sale then.
Oh yeah, that sale probably took me 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Oh, 100%.
It's definitely worth it. So I guess what was that sale specifically? Was that just a lot of product knowledge you were just kind of giving him?
Yeah, that one was product knowledge, the knowledge of what the other companies offer, because I was able to determine what he needed, what he was looking into, like a reason to switch for. And I was able to compare it to what I was able to offer him. And that goes into like the product knowledge, like knowing what chemicals we're using versus what they're using. And overall, just like the actual service itself. Because like that was the biggest thing that helped me a ton this summer was my manager had us write down every single company that's in our market. And then with that company or with each company, we would write down how much they charge, how much it is, or yeah, so how much they charge, what it costs, and then also I just said the same thing twice, but what they do and everything like that. So it's just everything that they have to offer. even down to the details of like, oh, they only go 15 feet out with granules versus 35, 40, 50 feet, and just continue on that path to every small detail. Like, oh, they don't offer like weeping hole injections, or they don't offer mosquito service. How much is their mosquito service? How much is it an add-on for them to take care of, I don't know, like wasps inside the attic? Like, just every single detail. So then you're never surprised by what the customers are offering you. If that makes sense.
It's, yeah, it does. That's pretty interesting. Your manager had you write all that down because I've never heard of anybody really having you write down all the product knowledge, all the company knowledge from your competitors. So that's pretty interesting. And I'd say I've been doing some trash blitzes. I was actually in. So you sold in Kansas City?
Yeah, I was in Kansas City my rookie year, and then this past year I was in Oklahoma City and then Tulsa.
Okay. So I sold in Kansas City, and I'd say the best thing about selling out there is just telling people straight up, like, yeah, you paid this, and this is what we're doing. And I feel like that helps out a lot. And you're saying you kind of got that benefit from it as well.
Yeah, simply, yeah. Kansas City was a cool market too, just because it is so oversaturated there that it's like you keep it a buck with them, they're gonna end up buying from you just because they know you're what you're there for and everything. So they're gonna buy it based on how genuine you are with them. And if you just keep everything a buck, have them know everything, because that was like what we used a ton when we were knocking in Kansas City. It was just like, don't hide a single thing, because if they find one thing, they're gonna have 13 other guys offering the same thing within the next like 2 to 3 weeks there anyway. So just having them know everything, believe everything you're saying, and just believing in you and the service.
So, yeah, a lot of markets, especially for pests, are becoming super saturated now. When I was selling in Kansas City, I wasn't even selling pest control. And I knocked on somebody's door and they were like, "Are you pest control?" So I was like, "Oh, shoot, I didn't even know it was over here." So what would you say to somebody now trying to get a golden door? I'm sure back in like 2020, 2019, it was a lot easier to get one because it wasn't like saturated markets like it is now. I guess what would you say to somebody now in a super saturated market? Like, is it just simply just that, keeping it like straight to the point, or is there anything else to it?
Don't be salesy. Like, I know like every training has says like, yeah, like don't be a salesman, like blah blah blah. Like that's like genuinely how I made a major jump in my numbers, was simply I stopped pitching and I would just have conversations, because people are so tired of hearing the same old like, oh hey, my name's Connor, I'm the route manager with blah 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 company. Oh yeah, I take care of your neighbor there, there, and there. Like every single company uses the exact same script. So switching it into just having a conversation is huge, and that's really what like we focused on with like our team this summer and everything, and we saw the results just simply by us not going with the exact same script as the last six guys that came through, and just had it more as like, hey, what's up? Yep, I am killing bugs, but hey, I'm just out here hanging out, and like having it just be a conversational thing rather than a pitch. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it does. I'd say because it's pretty easy to t teach like the whole pitch, to a new guy coming into the market. So how do you teach that?
So what we did, we would start by teaching the script and everything right away, so that they got that down, and like we would have like a weekly call like leading up to the summer where we'd be like pitch practicing and everything strictly on the script. And then when we actually got to market after like the second week, we instantly switched it to conversation. Make it conversational. Don't be a robot. All this stuff, so that they have the bullet points of the script and the flow of the script, but you just create it into your own and make it work for you instead of what worked for whoever wrote the script. Like for us, our script's based off of like our president's sales pitch from, who knows, man, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Times are
Right.
changing from then. So yes, like the script is like that is what you need to have just based on like where you go and like how you do the pitch. But you got to change up the words and make it more your own personality and everything.
Right. And I definitely get where you're coming from with that because I'd say probably the number one thing that changed from my first year to second year was just like I don't even think I ever said one pitch that was the same this year, and I still performed a lot better. Absolutely. So you don't do like the basic pitch. I guess there's kind of like a ongoing debate I've seen from my past company and my current company, which is whether or not you teach service first or the price first in the basic pitch. Do you think there's a difference, or do you think it just depends on the person?
You got to tell them what the service is first, 100%. I
Yeah.
always, if they're like super like rushing me, I'll just throw out a crazy number at first just to get them to like what, and then go straight into why it would be that. So like that was how I was able to get like higher initials and everything this year. Was if I was getting rushed or like how much is it, I would pitch on initial, and then if they'd be like, well, what's that after that? I'd instantly get to the backyard or just get them moving. And then I would go into actually like what like the monthly or per service charge would be based on what I'm telling them so that they can be like, oh, it's not just gonna be $120 a month for blah blah blah. Like it's oh, he's gonna be doing this, and this. That's why it costs that much.
Right. Um, so you usually had pretty high initial Tuesday,
It all depends on the neighborhood and stuff too. Because like if I'm
right?
knocking like a day after a guy just came through and everybody just paid $100 initials, and I'm not going to turn around and be like, oh, well, $150 initial today. So it really just
Yeah.
depends on the day and what has happened in that neighborhood. So I had days where like I had like bottom floor initials all day long, but also had days where I was throwing up like crazy high initials. So it all really depends on like what was going on in that like area and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. And it kind of leads me to something that I've um kind of always thought about, which is a lot of people have like this stigma that if they just signed up with another company, say like a couple months ago or something, that they're in a contract for a year. And I know some people have their own ways of doing it. I have a way of doing it. How do you tell them that you can get them out of like that 12-month contract that they just signed up for with like, let's say Hawks or something before you come through?
Yeah, it's I just simply like say like, oh, like don't worry about it. Like we'll take care of that. We'll handle that for you, just so that it like gets their guard down and everything. And we do have our ways. Like every company, every person has their ways of doing it. Like for us, like I mean, me personally, I did pay a lot of cancellation fees this year, but at the same time, it was always like I would only do it if it was going to be worth it. If I was still going to make a good profit on it, or it would bump me to the next commission tier so that like all my accounts I make more on. So I was only doing it if it would be worth it. Like if it was a crazy high cancellation. Um, was it like Sailor that's like 85% and Moxie has 85% remaining contract value.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not gonna buy out a dude that just signed up a month ago and he has 85% of his contract left and he's on a $75 a month because that would be like 500-600 bucks. And then I would either break even on that sale or I would make a dime or I'd lose
Yeah.
money. I'm like, that's not worth it at the end of the day. But yeah, so just simply having it be, you can just have them know that you will like help them get out of it, even if it's like you have to like call the company and stuff. But yeah, it's simply just getting them to like understand that there are ways out other than them having to pay whatever the fee is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard of people doing that sometimes. And usually, like I've told, people coming in for their first year, don't do that.
Yeah,
There's definitely situations where you don't do that. But yeah, I've found that there's very few ways to get around that sometimes, and I can see that's very difficult, especially if it was like a Moxie or an Aptiv or something. Some of those companies that, in the nicest way possible, give us kind of a bad rap. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. I've had Alta in my market, and I've never seen a bad thing with you guys. But the other companies out there, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about.
100%. And
Yeah,
that's like one of the reasons why I love working for Altus because like right from the get go, they like engrave like integrity and like doing everything right. And like it's almost like a one strike rule here too. Like if you scam someone, you're gone. Like see ya.
right.
So that's something that like I love that like our culture here is like we do things right here. And
Yeah,
it shows too. Like you said yourself, like you've been to markets that we've been in. No one ever is just like, oh yeah, like that Ultra rep like screwed us and stuff.
yeah. But yeah, definitely heard it with the other companies for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I had one with Aptiv where they thought they were paying $40 a month and they ended up being paid or it was a $40 initial with a 160 monthly. I was just like, oh my God, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Geez, yeah, that's rough. I've seen that happen a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, in my personal experience, my first summer and my second summer, I've never been really good at like switchovers. Like, believe it or not, I've never done a Terminex switchover. Not once. Never been able to pull one out. I think I've pulled out an Orkin switchover, but the only switchovers I've ever actually really gotten good at is like, yeah, there was a guy here a month ago. I just signed up with him. So switchovers is something that I've always struggled with, and I know a lot of people coming in for their first year do. So, how important would you say the switchover actually is to your revenue? Like, what percentage of your revenue does that make up? What percentage of your accounts? Because, like me, my first year, and a lot of other people, if somebody tells me they're with a company, sometimes I'm just like, all right, have a good day. I don't even want to deal with it. You know what I mean?
So I am really good at switchovers. So right now, or this past summer, my switchover was 65% of my total revenue were switchover
Wow.
accounts. Yeah, it was just simply just from I think just knowing the ins and outs of every single company in my market and knowing the ranges and everything that they were able to go to. So yeah, so the switchover is huge because it's what makes the pest industry so great. Because you look at solar and stuff like that, you can't do a solar switchover, so it just immediately limits. So if you look at a hood, you have 100 houses and everything. Usually with pests, you'll have probably 60%, if not more, will have a company. So if you look at it, if you were to skip every single house that had a company already, you would only have 40% of the houses that you could actually knock and try to make a sale at, which limits you to 100 doors, usually averages like 40 conversations. 40 conversations leads to 15 to 20 pitches. 15 to 20 pitches usually leads 3 to 5 deals if you're like a pretty solid rep. But if you had that with 100 houses, that instantly almost doubles your odds where you can have those big crazy days of throwing down like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus K days.
Cool. Um, Definitely since we're not, I mean, you're going to be in Kansas City again this year, this
I'm gonna
upcoming year.
be, don't know where I'm going yet because this all depends on team size and my manager's going somewhere else. So this will be my first year managing solo. So we'll see where I end up going.
Okay. Hopefully you're not in my market. Hopefully you're not in Greenville, man. That'd be tough for me based on what you guys just did this past year. Um, but I was gonna say on the switchover, I've always heard like all these kind of basic things, which is, don't talk bad about the company, never do that. Um, but for you, would you say the big thing for you that you got a lot of switchovers was just that knowledge of what that company actually does, being confident about it, or is there something else to it?
Unwavering confidence. They could tell me they signed up with the dude the day before. They know everything. They like the price. They like the service so far, whatever. But if you come in there with unwavering confidence, like a line I would always use, like if they said they had like a company I was like extremely confident on with switching, like the Aptives, Moxies, like the companies are like super well known and super big companies. I would see them and be like, "Oh yeah, we're switching." Like, and they'd be like, "What?" I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, like they're a great company." And I'll be like, "Let's get you switched," and they would instantly be like, "What are you talking about?" And then I'll go into like just a standard switchover pitch, but it already like implemented a seed that like, oh, like I might be switching
Hmm.
just based on the confidence of like, oh yeah, like let's do it, like let's switch.
So you threw that out just straight away.
Oh, right away, like right after I asked them a question, like, oh, have you picked anybody up or not quite yet? And then they were like, oh yeah, I have blah 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 or blah blah blah. Boom, implement the seed of like, oh yeah, let's switch. And
Yeah.
they'd be like, oh what?
So was most of those switches just other door-to-door companies like the Moxies and the Aptives, or did you do a lot of Terminex and Orkins as well? Like what's like the ratio there?
Door to door companies are the easiest to switch, but I did
Right.
a lot of Terminex and Orkins this year too, just simply because I was going. Some of the neighborhoods I would go to would be like I'd be like the first or second door to door guy to come through, and it would just be like heavy Terminex and Orkin, just because, especially like in a market like Oklahoma, like there's like the city and then there's like tiny cities just in the middle of nowhere that would still be in our service range that I would go out there and then be like, oh yeah, I'm paying Orkin $150 a month because Orkin could charge them whatever they want because they're the only mark or the only company that's there.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, it would be super easy to come in there, know everything about Orkin because Orkin's super simple, dude. Like they only do the base spray. They'll do the eaves if you ask them to, and then they'll fog for mosquitoes. That's all they do. All they have to offer. So you go in there, and any door-to-door company, we all do the same stuff: eave, space, and yard. Boom. You add in the factor of like, oh yeah, we'll granulate your yard, and then you throw in the things like, oh yeah, we'll also hit your like weeping holes, and then I'll throw in a rodent box for free. Bang! Instantly, you're offering them 3 to 5 things that they're not getting with their company, like an Orkin or a Terminex. And they're super simple because there's no cancellation fees because they're massive companies.
Right.
So they don't care. I always say the same thing to them too, where I'll be like, hey, like, do you know your technician? And they'll be like, no, I have someone different every time. And I'm like, oh, well, so are you like anybody coming over for like Thanksgiving or something from Terminex? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, so what's the reason why you still have them? And then they give the reason, and then boom, you have a like a footing almost of like that's what they actually care about. So then you just start hammering in on what they actually care about. Or if they get super stuck on it, you can just start devaluing this whole point of having pest control. Especially if they have a company that's only doing like a base spray and stuff. You're like, all right, man. I mean, you're paying them a lot of money. If you just want a base spray, a great product is you can get oh my god, I'm blanking what it is. Talistar P. You can buy it at your
Right.
feed store, and it does the exact same thing. Just spray your base every couple of weeks, and you'll be good to go. And I'll be like, yeah, it's like $7. And then they'll tell you exactly why they want a pest control service instead of just doing it themselves. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then bang, you have another footing to just start hammering on.
I haven't heard that before, and that's pretty smart actually.
Yeah,
I've listened to a lot of people talk about it, and that's actually pretty smart. I've never heard that one before.
yeah, that one got me quite a few deals this year. It was just simply devaluing the whole point of a service, finding out what the reasoning is, and then going crazy on that specific point.
So how do you ride that line then of like devaluing the service, but at the same time not like putting them down and putting yourself on a pedestal so much that it sounds like you're bad mouthing their company? Because that can always put a bad perspective into
Oh,
customers' heads.
absolutely. By constantly saying they're a great company. So especially like a company like Terminex working, they're the biggest companies in the entire country. So I always will say like there's a reason why they're the biggest in the entire country. They have a lot of success. A lot of people like them. They're a great overall company. But this. And then so you're not trashing the company, you're trashing like the whole industry. Be like, yeah, I mean, realistically, like if I was in your shoes, like I would just do Tile Star P. Like before, like I started working for like Alter or something, like I would just tell my parents to get that and stuff like that. Where it's just like you're not trashing the company or trashing the industry or just the service side and not being like, oh, but this, like I'm so great, like because that, yeah, you're 100% right. Like that does make people like get really like standoffish and instantly shut down everything.
Right. I remember my first year, that's like the first thing that I was doing. I was like, oh yeah, your neighbor said they're crap. And then they'd like slam the door in my face. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Yeah, I never understood that for a while. Um, so so sometimes I've seen people do this on every single door, or they do it in a specific neighborhood where they'll hedge the switch over almost immediately. So they'll be like, instead of being like, yeah, I'm taking care of them and them, it's like, yeah, they both had Terminex, they had Orkin. Who'd you guys go with? Is that something you do every single door, or is that like a neighborhood to neighborhood?
It's neighborhood to neighborhood. So like in the morning, I'll try to figure out like who everybody has, what's going on, and who just came through and everything. And if it's like a neighborhood that like I'm only like the second guy to come through, or like I'm the first guy to come through, I'm not gonna be like, oh, they have. I'm just gonna simply just go based off of like, oh, have you picked someone up or not quite yet? And if I'm in like a new build that I know just gets like absolutely just ran through, I'm gonna be coming like, all right, so like Terry, she had Moxie, Bill across the street had Romex. Like, who'd you go with? I feel like everybody has someone different out here. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, I picked up Active, and you're just like, oh, great. And then you go into it.
Right. Huh.
So
Yeah,
really,
okay.
it's depending on. I just based it off of how often they get hit by door knockers, and then figure it out from there.
So yeah, I guess kind of based on what I was saying, like what I did my rookie year, then kind of what I do now, my switch over has changed up a good bit, and that's helped me. How like what was your biggest thing that changed? For me, it was like not bad mouthing the company, assuming everything they do. What was your like aha moment kind of?
My aha moment was definitely bad. Not bad mouthing companies was a big one. I will say because I used my rookie year. I feel like every rookie does that.
Yeah,
You just start talking trash about the other company. Um, But I think it was simply just knowing every single detail about every company so that I was never surprised. Like they would say their company and I wouldn't have to be there like, oh my God, I don't know what they do. And like I have no idea like how we like compare to them and stuff. So like I would know like, oh yeah, they got 3.5 stars on Google. They have they do this. Their price range is usually 120 to 170 a quarter. Like all that, I would know that already, so that when I'm asking those questions, I also can pick up if they even understand what's going on. Because a lot of people have no idea like what they actually have. They just know
right.
that it's on auto pay, and some dude in a bug truck comes out either every 3 months or every month, every 2 months, something like that. So it also helps you just kind of tie down like what they actually have so you know what you're working with.
I love that. I actually don't think I've ever heard of anybody like that's cool that you guys do that. Like you learn all the companies and everything like that. So you go out there and you're saying that with a lot more confidence instead of the basic, like, yeah, they do a little squirt at the base. They like treat the eaves maybe. That's
Yeah,
about it. That's cool that you actually like, you really do know everything about them.
exactly. And it helps
Um,
too because they're like, oh my God, this kid knows everything about what I'm getting. So it adds some more like you're the professional to what's you're doing. Cause like most of us, like everyone in the door to door industry is like somewhere between 18 to like 25, 26, 30, whatever. So
all
it's
right.
like they already think we're just a bunch of young dudes just like out here and we don't really know anything. But when you have that factor in, they're like, okay, like this dude knows what's up.
Kind of like demands respect in a way.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah, so bouncing off of that a little bit too is I mean, just like me and everybody else, a lot of those first year guys, even second year guys like myself, underestimate the head nods, eye contacts, like uptones, downtones. Is there something that you had being like a beginner to now, like, man, I should have listened earlier about the head nod. I should have listened earlier about the downtones. Was there something big for you that a lot of people you see like underestimate?
Mirroring, like
Mirroring.
that is something because like everybody had nods, everybody does like downtones and stuff, but when you start mirroring, they start mirroring you, so then you actually get them locked in. So like if like somebody would like put their hand on their hip, like I'd put my hand on my hip, and then like if they would like stand at like an angle or like do some like something weird like standing but their like legs are super far spread apart, like I'll do the same thing, or like just stuff like that. So then like it's almost like we're like syncing up, and then they become more locked into what you're saying because naturally we're doing the exact same thing, and then they'll start mirroring you. So when you start pointing at things, they're gonna be like, "Oh my god!" Start pointing at things too, and then it really adds like trust and everything, and then subconsciously they're just like locked in and ready to roll.
Right. Because even in my position, I've heard people say mirror probably hundreds of thousands of times while like teaching me. And I can't think of a time that I like actually tried to do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I can't think of too many times. I feel like maybe I do it slightly naturally, but I don't think about doing it, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's helpful. Another question that I always get from people, like guys that are on my team and things like that, is complaining about area, which is, I feel like fair in some standards, but do you think area really matters? No.
I think that there's 5 to 7 deals in every neighborhood,
Yeah.
and it's all mental. Now, like, yeah, when you're trying to push for like 10 plus deals in the day, area matters. But if you're trying to throw down 5 to 7 deals, doesn't matter where you are. Because I would have neighborhoods that I would go into, and I would have 13 houses. I'd be like, dude, like, I want to bounce. Like, this sucks. I knocked every single door. Nobody answered the first time. Like, I'm about to leave. And then I would like call my manager and I'd be like, yo, like, I'm about to dip to this other area. And then he'd be like, just stick it out for another hour or two. And then I would end up selling 8 out of the 13 houses.
Wow.
So it's like,
Huh.
it's all just mental. Like there's 5 to 7 deals in every single hood, regardless.
Regardless of income, regardless of like, yeah, how old the neighborhood is.
Now, like if you're knocking like trailers, like yeah, you just be screwing yourself, and especially retention wise too. But
Right. Yeah.
as long as they're like middle all the way up to high income, there's 5 to 7 deals.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. I think my first couple weeks, I think I sold a couple trailers and felt pretty good about it for the time being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trailers are always they're nice pick me up at the time, but you just know that you're not getting paid on that account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that those accounts did not stick at
Yeah,
all, you know. Um, So that's kind of something you were bringing up earlier, and I had one of my guys on my team. He was talking about how he wasn't super happy with our new company standards of like how our pricing actually was. So our prices are a little bit more than we used to be able to sell them at. He was like, "Oh, I loved when I could sell them at like 35 bucks a month because that's
yeah.
all the dude used to throw down." Does that actually matter, or is it really just a perspective thing?
It's perspective. We upped our prices this year too, and I was furious. I was like, dude, like last year was hard enough to sell like our premium accounts and stuff like that, and like now I gotta charge like an extra $5. Like that's crazy. But then, yeah, like everything, like I sold 3x what I did the year before, and I did higher prices. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah, that's huge. Um, What I was going to say off that too is when we're doing the switchovers, you ever sell people on a higher monthly?
always, I
'Cause I
never,
always thought that was impossible.
yeah, no, I
I
always
did for a
upgrade.
while.
That is something at the beginning, like at the beginning of this year, like I would always like price drop because that's what I did as a rookie. And then my manager gave me a tip. He's like, they already know what pest control is. They know how much it costs. Like, if you're giving them more, why would you charge them less? And that like stuck where like if they were saying like, oh, I'm paying like $100 a month or whatever, I'd be like, oh, cool. Like, what are you getting? And then I would upgrade their service. So there's a reason why they would want to switch one. And two, I'm raising their bill by $20. And then now I'm making more money and everything. And then they're getting a better service.
So by upgrading their service, do you mean like you're switching them from like a basic pest to like a mosquito, or you mean you're just telling them about what more you do than their current company?
Yeah. So even if I'm offering them the exact same thing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw add ons on. So, like, oh, like
Hmm.
if they're getting a standard pest plus a mosquito, I will go ahead. I'll add on like rats and mice, and then I'll do a termite inspection for free. Like I'll just give them more things because like all of our customers get termite inspections for free. Like as customers, once a year, you can request a termite inspection. We'll send a tech out and do an inspection for you for free. So that's something that we just offer. But like I'll just add it on as if it's like an additional thing that I'm just providing for them, even though it's something that is already within. So I always like keeping like a couple arrows in like my quiver so that if they ever like have anything, I'll be like, oh yeah, I can also do this for you, even if it's something that's already included in the factor. But it looks like I'm adding more things on for them for free, giving them like the best overall deal, but it's something that's already included in what I'm offering.
Right. So yeah, I guess kind of based on the last question I asked was like selling lower contracts to higher contracts. Um, what's like the difference for you selling a low one and selling a high one? I feel like it's pretty obvious for people. It's like if somebody's talking about, they can't afford it right now or something, but they really want it and you think they're going to stick, you sell them a lower one. And for a higher one, you just price them at that because whoa, we were just talking about pest control. Is there anything for you where you're like, I can squeeze in a higher initial here. I can squeeze in a higher monthly.
I always will push for a higher monthly than initial.
Okay.
So I'm more willing to do like a bottom floor initial if I get to keep my monthly at where I want it to be. So like when I'm price dropping, I don't price drop my monthly until I've already like hit my floor. So I'll be like, all right, so I'm gonna price them at let's keep 100 just because it's easiest. So like yeah, like $100, and they'll be like, oh, like I don't know, like kids' birthdays this weekend and blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, so like next month or something, like $100 would be cool, right? And I'll like throw a head nod in, and then they'll be like, yeah, like I can spend $100, and I'll be like, all right, cool. So how about this? Just because my truck is right down the street right now, like I don't have to like charge you for gas or anything. Like he's already in the neighborhood. Let me just go ahead. I'll drop your initials to just $75, and then let's call it a day. And they'll be like, cool.
And then the
Because
monthly you have at 100.
yeah, so then I keep my
Wow.
monthly where I want it. So then I'm still keeping what's that? That's 1175 contract value
Yeah.
versus having to drop my monthly with it and stuff. So I'd rather just take a loss because like I don't know how you guys do it up front, but we do our upfront based on like initial pricing and stuff.
Right.
So I'd rather take a hit on the initial versus the entire contract.
Right. And still maintain your strong back end at the very least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. Um, This is a random question, but I feel like it's worth asking because a lot of people, they'll come into the market, they'll think it's super easy to do because they'll see a lot of us, going out there and killing it. And I've heard of some people who hit a golden door and their first 2 weeks ever, they bagel. Like they don't make a sale for their first 2 weeks and they still somehow their third year hit a golden door. So like how was your first couple weeks for you ever?
So I'm not gonna lie, my first 2 weeks I came out the gates hot, but
Yeah.
if we look at like the blitz I did before my first summer, I bageled the 3 days I was there. So like before the summer and everything, they flew us all into like Austin and stuff to do like a blitz before the season and everything, meet the guys. And I came in there like oh, I'm about to crush it and everything like that. And it was 3 days that we just went out and pounded doors just to like basically get our teeth kicked in. And I got my teeth kicked, and I didn't make a single sale the first 3 days or the 3 days I was in Austin for my blitz before the season. And I was like, dude, what is going on? Like, that's crazy. Like, I was like, I was coming in there thinking like, oh, like I'm gonna be all that and stuff, and then bang, bagel. But then when I came out for my first ever like full week knocking, I threw down 25K. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah. So it's like getting your teeth kicked in will teach you like, oh, like you don't know everything. So then you can go in there and be like, all right, what do I need to work on? And then when it comes to like the actual season, you're just ready to go and you've already had it. So it's almost like college football, like every team plays like some no name school to start the season.
Yeah.
It's to get your hopes up and everything. And you always see every once in a while, you'll see like a top five team lose to like some no name school. And you're just like, oh my God, like what happened there? But then all of a sudden that team goes on and wins the rest of their games.
Yeah.
And it's just because you want to get all the rust out and you want to make your mistakes early. So then you have the entire season to just go crazy.
Yeah, I love that. Um, yeah, that kind of makes me think like, how did you prepare for the season after that? So you had that blitz, and then you had some time, and then you had your actual summer. What did you do preparation in between that time?
So I'm sure you guys have like some like online software that has like videos and stuff like that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
went through and I actually watched it because like part of like our onboarding process for rookies is they have to go through and watch all the videos. And when I did it, I was like, yeah, okay. So like I'd be sitting there and I'd like have them playing on my laptop while I was like watching Netflix or playing video games just to get through them. And then after I went out there, bageled for 3 days, I was like, all right, maybe I should go watch those videos. So I would actually pay attention to those. And then like I would start calling the guy that recruited me and I was like, yo, like, what do you do in this situation? And like actually start utilizing the people around me. And then when I came out, I was just ready to go.
Well, that's huge, actually. And I love that you just said that because a lot of people coming out for their first year when they're preparing and things like that, they're not the ones reaching out usually.
Right.
Usually I'm the one reaching out to them being like, all right, man, let's work on your pitch again this Wednesday, have a meeting and talk about it. I've never had anybody come out to me and reach out to me. I feel like that's, you know, if you have the desire to do that, that probably helps for the desire to hit the golden door, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%. Especially just like this industry is like, it's hard. Like, we have
Yeah,
one of the hardest jobs out there. And if you're not willing to put in the extra work and ask the questions because of like either your ego or just like not having the desire to, you're not really going to be that good. Like
right.
you're going to be like average to like above average at best. But if you're willing to put in the extra work, like even preparing for my Golden Door summer this past summer, I would have a call with my regional, my manager, because both of them were Golden Door runners. So I was like, I would hop on a call with them and I'd be like, all right, I have questions about these things. I need both of y'all's perspectives. And then they would flip it on me and then they'd have me like whip up like we call it our master notes. So it's basically like you take a script, like the script, and then you do every single thing you know about pest control and like about the pitch. So then I was putting in every single detail I knew, and it turned out to be like 20 pages. And then I sent it to them, and they reviewed it, and they sent it back, and it was every single thing I had wrong.
Mm.
And then it's like I would go back through and I would fix it, and then I'd look over it, and then I was like, oh my god, like I actually understand now. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so you had a lot of support for sure.
oh yeah, I because they were already like, dude, you're crazy. You're second year, like no second year at our company's hit a golden door,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And I also like a lot of like I don't know how to put it, but like I would like write it down. Like when I was like still in class, like instead of taking notes, like I'd be sitting there right, like I will golden door, I will golden door, like over and over. And then like at the start of the season, I wasn't saying like if I golden door, like I was like, yeah, when I golden door. Like just having that like belief in yourself and stuff too is like huge.
Right. Yeah, and that's perfect. I feel like that applies to almost everything in life is like confidence in a way. And what you're saying is what gives you that confidence, how you gain that. Um, how many months did that take you to hit that golden door, did you say?
Let's see, 7 months for Rev, and then 4 months for accounts.
Okay, gotcha. So 4 months, you hit 1,000 accounts.
Yep.
Okay. And then let's just say during that summer specifically, what was your best week and why? And then what was your worst week and why?
So my best week, I did 36,000 in revenue,
Oh,
and I was like, I was just on one that week. I was the most confident person in everything I was doing. I was following a routine. I was competing. That's the biggest thing right there is competing. So my manager, he's like one of the best reps in the entire industry. He did like 850K this year and retained 93%. Like
wow.
that dude is insane. He's by far the best. He has an episode on the Door to Door podcast. So if you want to listen to that, his name's Michael Drobnik.
Okay.
Dude's a stud. But I would compete with him, and he's throwing down 45K weeks like on a consistent basis. But I was every day, like I would be like, I'm gonna beat you today. And then like I would do something like I would be like, all right, like if I win, you got to buy me dinner. But if you beat me, like I'll buy you a rain tomorrow because you got more money than me. Something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So like we would do that, and like we would go head to head every single day, and then like we do like throwdown Thursdays and stuff. So like
Right.
we instead of like doing that, like we would like throw down every day, and then on Thursday, like I would call them out, and like we would have like some crazy punishment or whatever, and like I lost quite a few of them, but it was just the fact that like I would be looking at the leaderboard and it'll be like 2 o'clock and he's already at like 5 deals or something. I'd be like, oh shit, like I have 1 or 2 deals. So it would just keep me motivated throughout the whole day. And then it also like kind of separated it from like, because if you're just looking at the leaderboard, like if you want to be like a top dog, you can't compare yourself to the rest of the company. Because like if you're throwing down 3K a day consistently, at most companies you're going to be top 10, top 15. But if you only compete with the top three guys and you only care about the top three guys and what they're doing, then it like you just naturally will associate yourself with it. And then boom, that's how I was able to finish in the top three. Just simply because I only cared about what the top three guys were doing. Even though that the two guys that beat me this year, they did like 750 and then 850. So it was like, all
Mm.
right, they like beat the shit out of me, but
Yeah,
I was still like chasing them all summer and had days that I actually would beat them.
right. So, like my first summer, I was out of like all the first year reps, we had 60 at our branch in Charlotte. We had a huge team,
Massive team.
and I was the second rookie out of all of them. And it was nice to be like going up there at the beginning of the season, but then I saw a lot of people catching up to me, and I feel like that affected my confidence. And I did a little bit worse because I'm like, oh shoot, he's getting near me. How do you like how do you stop that from being a negative thought in your head and make it more like, dang, he's already got like you said, 4 deals, 5 deals on the day. Like, how do you not just like give up at that point? Like, all right, he's already too far. I can't pass him now.
I would just think of it as if he got 4 deals already, like I can get 4 deals. Like just simply be like, why is he better than me? And just having that mindset of like what makes him top dog, like I can be top dog.
More
And
so
just
proving that it's possible in a way.
yeah, just be like, all right, like especially like it does help that like my manager, like I went to college with him. He was one of my teammates in college, so it's like what makes him like we have the exact same like storyline essentially. Like both were college athletes, and now we work door to door. Like, why is he better than me? So then just having that belief that like you're equals or like you can be better, have that little drive. Like, don't get me wrong, there were some days that like I would see he'd be at like 8 deals and I'd be at like one at like 6:30. I'm like, fuck dude, like
For sure.
today sucks. But then
Yeah.
that's part of it. But then having that bounce back the next day, and then like, oh, I just threw down 12 deals. He only threw down three. I'm beating him on the week now. So it's like
Yeah.
always just having that like give or take and like allowing to have like bounce backs because everyone's gonna have terrible days.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's, I guess, yeah, kind of part of that question too was like, what was your worst week and why? Like, I know because that happens to pretty much everybody at some point, you know?
Yeah. So my worst week was right at the very end. It was my I went and blitzed Las Vegas, and because I was like in Austin and everything, and then I was like, oh my god, we didn't have a team in Vegas. I was like, dude, I'm about to go there. It's untouched hood. The entire place is there. Drove out to Vegas for a week and crumbled.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what happened, but I did like 8K. And like, that was like my worst week ever knocking. I was like, dude, like, I was
Eight
like,
eight K your worst week is that's not too bad, I'd say.
it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But for someone that's like chasing a golden door, and I was like,
Right.
my last like 2 weeks. So I was like, oh, dude, I need like 20K and I'm done.
Yeah. Not to your standards, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm 20K away. I'm throwing down on average 25, 26K weeks. So I'm like, dude, like, I'm gonna finish in Vegas, then I'll like go out in Vegas, party it up on Saturday once I finish and stuff.
Right.
Was get my face kicked in and like my mental was so down and out about it and everything. And then that caused me to just like spiral. And like the only people I was closing were laydowns. Like they would come out and be
Right.
like, oh yeah, I hate my bug company. What do you got? Like I could not close like something that like I'd closed hundreds of times before.
Right. Yeah. Um, I guess yeah, especially when you were there, how do you like try to manage those ups and downs? Because sometimes those ups can be really up and you have so much confidence. You know, sometimes I've gotten to a neighborhood and I'm like, I'm gonna throw like I got 2 hours left on the day, I'm gonna throw down a bunch, and I do. Other days it's like, you know, I've gotten bit by a dog, you know, I've gotten screamed at, yelled at, I've had a lot happen to me. And it can definitely be tough to like bounce back some days, especially after getting yelled at. How do you manage the downs, especially?
Just not taking it so serious. Like that's the biggest thing. Like I've had same similar days where like you get bit by a dog, someone points a gun at you, like some crazy shit goes down, and you're just like, dude, what am I doing? Like what is going on? But then like you just turn it into like, I mean, fuck it, dude. Like I like get paid to ride around on a little Segway, talk to people on their doorstep, and if they buy, I make a couple $100. Like if you think
Yeah.
about it that way, like our job does not seem like it's a real job. Like it's kind of like funny, like what we actually do, and we make as much as we do. So
Yeah.
like just making it like not so serious, like really like helps. So like when people like yell at me and they're like, "Get the fuck off my door," like blah blah blah, like I'll actually like laugh and like walk away and
Yeah.
like just not take anything to heart because it's not personal. It's not you that they're talking about. It's like the company or the door like industry like that's who they're mad about. They're not mad at you.
Yeah. And I've totally done that hundreds of times because like, somebody will yell at me or something, and I'll kind of just laugh walking away because I just think in my own head, like, what's going on in this guy's life that he's so mad at me for knocking on his door? Like,
So,
that causes blow up. It's yeah. That usually just I try to laugh it off, and usually that's the best thing for me. I've heard other people say like that's not the best thing to do mentally, but works for me, you know.
yeah, I mean, you gotta do what works best for you, and like that works for me 100%.
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to go over, and I will really have a couple of questions left. Um, but what you were saying earlier too is I've seen some Golden Door winners and some people who just have crazy summers and have like the worst cancellation rates,
Yeah.
like just awful, like 40%, maybe less. And then I've seen others, like you said yourself. I mean, I've seen some, I mean, even having a Golden Door and having 80 or 90 cancellation, like, or retention, I should say, is pretty good. Um, so what would you say the big difference is between those two?
I mean, ultimately, you get paid. Like, we don't do this job just to throw down big numbers and get recognition for it. Like, we do this job because we need money. We do it because this is how like what we do for a living. So I don't see the point in going out there and like throwing down some crazy like numbers and like being like, oh yeah, I sold 1.5 mil, but if you only have 50%, 40%, 30% retained, like yeah, you're still gonna make like a ton of money because 50% of that is still like 600 active, blah blah blah. You're making a ton of money there, but think about what you could have made if you just didn't throw like sketch accounts or like you just kept everything above, and it just looks bad like on your company too, like
Right.
because it's like if you have that have a cancellation, that means that those people either got screwed over or like weren't told the truth or were told to cancel after 3 days or before 3 days, whatever, and that just looks bad.
Yeah. So you'd say that's probably generally it is like um not selling with integrity and then just selling shit.
Yeah, like we do this job to get paid. Do
Right.
what makes you get paid because everyone's gonna have like whatever amount canceled. Like that's just how it goes. People can't afford it. Something happens. Like I think like for us, like it's like 2 to 5% will be because of tech error. Because yeah, like if you have so many accounts, like somewhere down the line, something's gonna happen where oh a tech shows up late and pisses off the customer, or the tech missed a watch mess. That's gonna happen every once in a while. That
Yeah.
person freaks out, they cancel. Like that's gonna happen. But the controllable stuff is they know everything that's going on, they know the price, and they know the general idea of what they're getting from the service. So as long
Gotcha.
as you know those three things and you're delivering on that, they're not gonna have a reason to cancel.
Yeah. That's a good point actually. Um kind of makes me think of too. So, like, how do you like avoid drop off besides just selling accounts? Do you have any strategies? Because I know for me personally, my first summer and my second summer, it's like I'll call all my customers in August. If I have a day where I got nothing going on, or maybe like I'm sick, like I hurt or whatever, and I can't go out and knock, I'll call all my customers and be like, "Hey, how's it going? Is there anything I can do?" Get reservices for a bunch of them. Is there anything else you do, or do you do that even?
I give every single one of my customers my phone number, and I tell them if they need anything whatsoever, text me.
Text you,
Which
okay.
lots like my regional hates that I do this. Like our CEO hates that I do this, but I'd rather have like control of the accounts that are going to cancel because I'm the one that made the connection. I'm the one that had like I'm the face to Alta to these people. Like I'm the one that sold them. I'm the one that like spent time with them, did everything for them. So why would I trust a customer service rep that yeah they get paid if they save an account, so they're gonna do their best. But I'm the one that was actually the one that made the connection, so they know what I look like. they remembered me talking to them. I've been inside their house. Like they remember all that. So I have a personal connection with them. So like I'll get texts every once in a while and I'll be like, hey, like I'm mad at you guys. And I'll be like, oh, like I'm so sorry to hear that. Like what happened? And they're like, you guys like accidentally double billed me or something. And I'm like, oh, I'll get that handled for you right away. And then boom, I send it into the office immediately with like an ASAP tag on it. And that gets handled like right away where we're able to like reimburse them or add a credit to their account so that it gets handled right away versus them having to call in, possibly get put on hold, and then it just becomes a whole thing. Because like we both know, like calling into customer service thing sucks 90% of the time. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna be like, all right, put on hold. They're gonna be transferring you around and stuff. Versus just deal with me. I'll send it to who needs to like handle it. We're just gonna call it good. And even a lot of the stuff is so small. Like, oh yeah, like I want to cancel because I'm still seeing ants. Like, oh, okay. How about this? I'll send a technician out for you right away. We'll get that handled within the next day or so. And they go like, oh, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. And that's
A
all they need.
simple, a simple reservice just saved an entire account.
Yeah. So just giving out your phone number is
Yep.
pretty much the thing. Because I do, especially the guys who sell a lot more, I see them kind of neglect that. And I've always done it. I've always given my phone number out. Because it's yeah, if they need something, I'd rather they reach out to me rather than be on hold, talk to somebody they don't know. But if somebody calls me, I'd be like, oh, hey, how you doing, man?
Yeah.
You know, that kind
Exactly.
of thing. It's a lot easier to save the sale yourself, I feel like, personally.
Exactly.
Um, well, I don't got too many more questions for you. I guess I'd say like just some basic things like or some more personality wise like what's your favorite pitch? Me personally, like for example, I love doing the switch over of somebody who just signed up like a couple weeks ago. That's like my absolute favorite thing. Do you have anything? I know some people like doing DIYs.
My favorite with high success rate is people that signed up with the company a couple of weeks prior. But I love switching people that have had a company for like 20 something years.
Yeah.
Like DIYers have done it themselves their entire lives just because it's like I had to work for that. And it's
Yeah.
like you change somebody's complete perspective. And like that's what our job is like changing someone's like perspective. So like those always make me feel the best. They're like the super hard ones that you're like, I have no idea how I just pulled that off.
Yeah, usually, I mean, when somebody tells me they've been with their company for 20 years, I'm like, they still doing good? I'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, cool, have a good day. Like, I don't even try it because it's like, usually it's not even going to work out for me. I feel like it's a waste of time.
Most of the time, it is a waste of time, but like when you do pull them off, though, it's just like chef's
Very
kiss.
rewarding. Yeah. Um, I I guess kind of similar question then off of that is like, is that like the hardest objection you usually get for you?
The hardest objection is old people that have been using the same company for decades. Those are always the ones that, when they say that, I'm just like, all right, let's see how this
Yeah.
goes. So, yeah, that's definitely the hardest one for me. But yeah, I mean, I still like struggle with those. But
Right.
yeah,
I guess last one, and then unless you have anything else, the only other question I can kind of really think of is a lot of people they'll come out and they've talked certain ways their whole life, so they don't know how to head nod. Some people naturally uptone all the time. Some people just really struggle to stay planted in a sale. What was like your hardest habit to break?
my hardest habit to break was the uptones
Yeah.
because naturally I would always just like get excited and then start like talking with uptones and stuff. And then once I broke that and switched to just straight, just super, just like consistent, kind of like monotone and like slow down the downtones, that helped a ton. Because then you're just doing the uptones to like build like excitement around something. So then it just all pans out essentially. But yeah, that was definitely the hardest one. And
And
I
you
guess when I started doing head nods too, like that was because I felt so weird like having a conversation being like,
Yeah, yeah,
and I like at first would do it so unnaturally and be like, yeah, dude, like
yeah,
versus just like a simple like just a little bobble.
yeah. I remember I talked with another guy who just hit a golden door this past year, and I saw him do 100K in April, and I was like, "Whoa, dude, what are you doing right?" And he literally just told me, smile and head no. I'm sure that's it.
Yeah, my best month was 140K,
Wow.
and I literally was just laughing, smiling, and head nodding every door.
Hmm. I feel like me personally too. I feel like it's kind of tough to fake a smile sometimes. Like,
Oh, it is.
or like I always am trying to smile when they come out to the door, make it kind of bring their guard down. You have any way to do that? Because usually I just try to make myself laugh with something funny in my head and like force a smile out that way.
I'll start off without one per se, and like
Okay.
just be like kind of just like chill, just like normal dude on their doorstep. And then my goal is to make them laugh right away. So like in like my intro or something, like I'll do something like make fun of myself or something. Cause like I did something, I did a bet with one of the top or this other top guy. He also has a beard. We were like, all right, we're not gonna like trim it, shape up, like anything until like the end of the month or something. So we did a full month of like no like beard maintenance, and we both looked homeless as fuck. Like I was looking rough out there. And I'd be like, yeah, no, like I probably look like another homeless dude sitting on your doorstep. And like they would always be like, what? No, and like start giggling and stuff. And then I would like go into her and be like, yeah, no, like I'm like Santa Claus. It's just July. I haven't dyed the beard white yet. And like they'd say some like laugh at that. Like I want them to giggle right away. So then
Yeah.
it becomes natural for why both of you are smiling versus you sitting there like, yeah, dude, like
Yeah.
just make everything seem like it's playing out naturally, even though like you're controlling everything.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was pretty much all the questions I had for you. I love that. That was all great. I feel like that's a lot of stuff that people need to hear, even myself, for a lot of those things. Most of the things you said too, I feel like people have told me before, but I didn't fully grasp it, as far as like, yeah, you got a head nod. It's like, okay, I got a head nod, and then you forget about it the next day. But
Exactly.
actually diving into why it's important, I feel like is huge for a lot of people.
Absolutely, dude.
Well, I got nothing else for you, man. Is there anything that you really wished I asked you? Any other questions you figured you were wanting to talk about, or anything cool, exciting? Maybe like the weirdest door you've ever knocked on, or weirdest interaction, or something like that.
Weirdest interaction. I had a dude answer the door in a pink robe, wide open, completely naked, with a
Oh,
shotgun on his shoulder. I was
do you
just
knock
like,
on a do you
all
knock
right,
on a trailer or something?
nah, dude. I mean, I was in the boonies of Oklahoma, and I
Jesus
was like
Christ.
knocking like they were like nice houses too, like but like the super spread out like acre and a half lots type.
Right.
I was one of those, and I was like, oh, like this is a high income neighborhood. Like all these houses are massive. And I knocked on his door, and he answers it just full frontal with a shotgun over his shoulder. I'm just like, all right, sir, you the rest of your day.
Yeah, coming out with a shotgun, that's not easy, but coming out naked with a shotgun is pretty bad too.
Yeah, it was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I feel like that's worse than getting bit by a dog.
Yeah, I got bit by a couple pit bulls this year, and I'm just like, dude.
Yeah, I got a scar still from my first summer
Oh, there you go.
getting
I
getting
lucked
bit by a pit
out with
bull.
that bit, so you definitely got a
Yeah,
worse one.
yeah, yeah. Could have been worse for sure. Oh man, I don't really got too much else for you. Thank you a lot for doing this. That was very informative, not just for probably other people that I'll show this to, but myself as well. So I appreciate it a lot, man.
100%, man. Anything else? Know how to get to me.
Cool.
All right, man.
Awesome, man. You have a good one then, okay?
You too. All right.